Rachel. And we're live. We're live. Actually, I'm going to have you. How can I do this? I'm actually having you pause that. Oh, actually, let me have that phone. I need to play them a song. Yeah. So I'm gonna. Usually, I have ambient music in the background, but I have to adjust the song in a couple of minutes because I have a special song for you tonight. Special song. Welcome to Apothecary session 1 for June. When we were designing Apothecary, I'm turning 52. This was after my 50th birthday when I came back, and I was like, oh, so excited to tell you all about this class that we're going to teach. Which at first everybody was like, oh, and then I was like, no, get on board with it, get with it. So it was funny for me to see the team get super excited about Apothecary afterward, because at first people were like, oh. But anyway, I was really excited about it. So when I came back after my 50th birthday, which is coming up on 2 years ago, I was right. It was super great. This was one of the months I was most excited about, because we're talking about the moon, and we're talking about Ixchel, and we're talking Ish cacao, right? Ish is a prefix that talks about, because Ixchel is the goddess of the moon. Ish cacao, or the spirit of the moon, I should say, because our ancient ancestors didn't really think about gods and goddesses. I know that's a weird thing to tell you, but like Athena wasn't considered a goddess. She wouldn't have been considered feminine. Really is true. And in Greek, we have feminine, masculine, and neuter. We have a non-sexed third category, which nobody ever talks about, But anyway, I think it's really interesting. So not everything was masculine and feminine. There was a neuter, like a non-binary category in ancient Greece, and the gods and goddesses fit into that non-binary category. Well, Ish, Ix, in Nahuatl is a non-binary category that recognizes it's not the goddess or the god, which we associate with the masculine and the feminine. Ish is the spirit. So Ish cacao, and there's a song I want to play for you tonight. So it's going to take a little bit of our time, but music for me is such an important part of how I learn to work with energy, right? Because it takes you out of your brain, connects you with your body. And this particular track was done by Risueño, which is the record label owned by my friend Mose, who is an incredible musician and artist. So Mose, that's his label, Risueño, which is, it's Risueño for me means rebirth, kind of. It's coming alive inside of a dream. So I think it's a really cool label for his record company, his recording company. So Risueño did this Ish cacao song, this sort of offering to cacao medicine, and I want to play it for you because I think it's going to open your mind to the energy work of tonight. So we have a goddess who is the energy of the moon, and we have a plant, right, which is the energy of cacao, and together these form an awareness of the moon, of the feminine, of our ability to receive, how we receive, right? The feminine in her highest evolution is completely receptive, so she doesn't resist. Okay, just let me know about herbs and oils, yeah, because last month, I don't know if we have any, I'm asking Lee to talk to Circe. The offerings for tonight are really beautiful. We don't have any more of the chalices, unfortunately, so if you had one from the previous iteration of Apothecary, then you have one and you're super lucky, because there's no more of those to be had. But the herbs and oils for tonight, which is the golden copal, which was a big part of my journey to the Yucatan Peninsula, and I'm excited to burn it with you tonight. The calea, which is the dream herb, and the valerian root, and the oils are cacao absolute, balsam copaiba, and selva, which was our blend that we made for you to experience the greater magic of the region, right? So you have all of those in your oil bottles if you had them originally. Do you have any questions about the offerings for tonight before we dive right in? We do have other chalices. Yeah, so the chalice is here because the moon is a water planet, right? And so she, because the moon is so feminine, she's receptive. And so we did a chalice when we were designing this class because it's about how you receive, like what pours into you and how you hold it. So we thought chalices were kind of the magic medicine. Okay, yeah. So Circe's going to check with Hannah Lay, who will have all the answers. So stay tuned. Hannah knows everything about our herb and oil inventory. So stand by while Circe gets all the 411 and we'll be good. You're wearing Selva now. Selva still to this day, because Selva, when I was staying in the Yucatan, the place I was staying, and I've told you this story before, but it bears repeating. It's now something I would do if I was having a retreat, because they had these beautiful bathtubs. And so every morning they would bring a new container of salt that was made with the oils that are now in Selva. They didn't tell me what was in it. I just used my nose to recreate it. And it is a one-to-one replica of what they were bringing in. So every morning, the idea was at this place I was living that you would take this restorative salt bath. So they would come in the morning, unless you didn't want them to, and they would fill the basin with water. And it was a copper bathtub, but it would take an hour and a half to fill because it was so wide and deep. And they would bring this salt blend for purification. And I was like, I have to recreate this. So I did my best. And it's like I said, it's an exact replica of the scent, even though I didn't know the exact formula that they were leaving. So if you, I do recommend adding Selva to salt, just so you can try a restorative bath with the exact blend, and you'll have the exact oils I was working with, because it was magic at the time, and I want you to experience it. Okay, so let's dive right in. I have so much to tell you tonight. And session 1 of Apothecary, is anybody new? I think most of you have been here for session 1. The way I designed this class originally, right, is that session 1 is let's understand the content, the context, right? So let's understand the goddess of the moon in this pantheon. Let's understand the herbs and oils, right? And then let's understand just sort of like what tools we're working with and what energies we're working with. And then session 2 is a journey with the archetype that we're working with. So Ishal, who's the goddess of the moon in the Mayan pantheon, and she's associated with jaguar medicine. She's associated with the middle world, right? She's all kinds of magic. We do a journey with her in session 2, or a journey with our figure. Session 3 is where we come back to our book of wisdom. So we do our art journaling, and we, if you want to do any drawings of the botanics of the month, that's the time to do it. We make our incense or whatever, our creation is for the month. And I'm going to recommend that we make an incense, because I think finally, I wanted to combine cacao with copal and selva. Those are the 3 smells of that entire trip that I took, right? I mean, there's so much chocolate medicine in the jungle of the Yucatan. It's just everywhere you go, but not chocolate in the way that I think we consume it. It's chocolate in the way I want you to learn how to consume it, which is why I want to play the song and get you into the mood. And then our 4th session, Hanali and I are already talking about chocolate magic. I would like to I have this idea. I've never done it before. So listen, this could go sideways. I just want to prepare you. Like, what I have planned for Sacred Circle would be, I want to do copal truffles. What do you think of copal truffles? Copal is edible. I'm really good at making truffles. When I lived in San Francisco, I was alone all the time because my husband at the time worked in the tech industry, so he traveled a lot. And so I would find fun things to do. So one of the fun things I did was take cooking classes in just south of me, in a beautiful area of the Bay. And so one of the incredible classes I took was truffle making. And I learned how to temper my chocolate. I know how to temper chocolate. So, because that's the secret, right? You just got to temper your chocolate so it coats you make your truffle base and you roll it into a little ball and then you coat it in your tempered chocolate. And you can add all kinds of things to that. When I took the class, it was a tea truffle making class. So we added we made our different teas. My request was Earl Grey because that's my favorite tea. And then we made a cream base and we added our tea infusion to the cream base and got it to room temperature and then, sort of made it into little balls and set it out. And then we dressed our chocolate. So do you remember when I did that? And I actually led a truffle making class in sabbatical. Does anybody remember that from my house? Gosh, 2013, 2014, I did a truffle making class. The kids were there. They remember it in my kitchen. So, oh my God, Nicole remembers. So some of you might have been there for that, which is really cool. Because literally that would have to be 11 years ago, 10, 11 years ago. So I want to come back to truffle making. And it's a great also idea for gifting. Because when you have hard people to buy for, what they don't have is handmade chocolate. And to be able to make something with your own hands that has magic to it. Copal alternatives for Elena, because I know it is hard to get copal. We can talk about it and think about it. I got to think about what would be equally clearing for you that would be edible. So let me think. When I was in the Yucatan, it was all copal. Just everywhere you went, everywhere I went, I was choosing the resins to burn, and he had me chew it before and spit it on the fire. Do you remember those stories? I had never chewed copal, but it's edible. So I was getting ready to put one of the pieces of resin on the fire that he'd built, and I was putting it with my hand, and he went, and he said, "Put it in your mouth," in Spanish. So I was like, okay. So I put it in my mouth, and he's like, "Chew it," and I'm chewing it, and he said, "Wait till it gets chewy." So I was like, okay, it's chewy. And then he goes, "Now spit it onto the fire." And I was like, really? He's like, just fucking do it, right? So I did it. And it was a different experience because he's like, you're transferring, you're clearing your own life force when you do that. So he's like, instead of just picking it up and putting it or taking your tongs and putting it or whatever, you're doing right now, chewing it and then spitting it onto the fire, he said, adds your life force to it. So it was a really powerful experience. I haven't continued to do it, but I will say, yes, you can chew this. I wonder if I'm not encouraging you to chew it, by the way. Don't hurt your teeth. I'm old and my teeth are not as great as they used to be. So I'm not asking you to, this is not like rock candy. I'm just seeing if the taste familiar. Not really. His got chewy. This didn't get chewy. I wonder what his secret was. I haven't chewed copal since I was in the Yucatan. Let me make sure I have charcoal. I may need these help. I don't know if we have any more of the little Greek charcoal. Can you check under this? I know it's weird. Can you check under the bed and see if there's a Peter Rabbit container? Yeah, right over there. The white, no, that one. The white one with the rabbit, yeah. And then let me see. Yeah, I've got charcoal. Yay. Everybody thank Lee. Okay, so I'm going to light my charcoal. I'll probably still put it in my mouth and spit it. Yeah, well, his was, so we had a whole conversation, and I'm going to talk about this tonight because I said to him, at home, this is not what my copal, and I'm fluent in Spanish, so we weren't speaking in English. There was no translation barrier. I was like, when I get home, my copal doesn't taste like this, doesn't feel like this. And he's like, I know. And we talked about why that is. And it was actually quite sad for me. I think in our lifetime, we will realize we've had access to some tools and some offerings that we may not always have access to in the same way. Because there's a dying off of our breed, which is kind of sad. So I've got some charcoal lit here. I still think he's probably right that if I spit it has more meaning. So I'm gonna give it a little piece that I can chew and spit, suck and spit. What'd you do tonight? My teacher taught me to suck it and spit. Great. That's so wonderful of her. Yep. Now I gotta get my tongs. I didn't spit it because I was not paying attention. It's still wet though. Oh, it's kind of heart-shaped. Okay. I'm not telling you to suck it and spit. I'm saying that's what he told me to do. Some things like not to be tried at home. But remember Copal, he was like, oh, in the jungle here, we suck on Copal all the time. It's antibacterial. And I was like, I know, antibiotico. SSC. SCS. So he was like, you guys don't suck on it? And I'm like, no. And, my explanation to him was people back home, I'm not talking about you, by the way, don't take this personal. People back home, but you know what I mean, don't know how to behave with things, right? They don't know how to behave. You tell people, oh, it's okay to suck it, and then they're gonna sit there and chew on a pound of it. Like, no, that wasn't what I was saying. I know. You have Peter Rabbit in the background. Is it hot? Is she hot? Is she ready? Oh yeah, it's burning down. So if you don't have any Copal, I'm gonna share some with you. So just a little bit for you. And this is, Copal, the reason they're constantly burning it is its clearing properties. And we're going to talk about a lot of clearing tonight because the moon is about clearing, releasing, letting go, not holding on, right? All of those energies. So but see how the resin burns down? It goes from this really hard crystalline rock candy thing down to a really beautiful liquid. And so one little piece, you basically got a lifetime supply. If you got this one little piece, this is enough to clear everything around me twice. So you don't need any more than that. And even in the jungle, right? They would put one piece, and then you would take the sensor around and go through your field, and then have you turn around and then under the hands, which is really important. Both sides of the hands are very important because most of the magic you work is with your hands. You cook, you love, you do all the things with your hands, right? It's also good just to run your phone through it. My phone is off because my audio doesn't work if my phone is on, but just clearing my phone. And then the last step is as long as you can stand it, because that coats the mucosa of the nose, actually prevents colds and flus. So, and I have a theory. So when we left Mexico, my sister was on the trip with us. Just a theory. Okay, I don't know what's right and what's wrong. But so the kids and I, we did fly in a different flight, in and out, because I had to do mine with points, and she did hers on her own. So we flew home. I had the kids inhaling Copal when we were there because there was still COVID, right? So we were still kind of thinking about COVID. So I'm like, just okay. We flew home, same airport, same time, and her gate was right next to ours, and we ate at the airport before we left. So we were together the whole time until she went and boarded her plane, and we went and boarded ours. Okay. We got home. She was so sick, like so sick. Now you could say, well, maybe she was exposed a long time before, but I think and we did not get sick. I think the difference may have been how much Copal We were inhaling because if I was to ask in the jungle, they would be like, 100%, that's what happened, right? Like you were up in it and she wasn't, and that's what happened. So she was sick for like 2 weeks. In my family, we weren't good about testing for COVID. So I don't always know what we had. One time I did test when the kids and I were sick, when Zoe and I were sick, and we did have it. So I love Palo Santo. The Mayans would tell you need Palo Santo after you're sick and Copal and Copaiba before you get sick. That's what the Mayans would tell you. I'm not saying right or wrong, but I'm just telling you from a medicina perspective. They would tell you after you're sick, the Palo Santo. Before you're sick, the Copal. So Crystal, yeah. I love this little incense burner too. We had these in the lair for a minute. I don't think we ever sold them. I think we probably still have 3 or 4 of them somewhere. But it's all the saints. It's a super Greek Orthodox one, which is a little different than what we're doing tonight. But yeah, I'll see if we can. After we're done moving, we'll find all of these things. We're going to go through all of our boxes and go, oh my God, look at what we have. The one thing I do have for you tonight, though, and I do want to tell you this, and I don't mind if you open another tab to get it because I had to list a limited number of them. I promised you Pure Rose essential oil last month. Do you remember? So this is it. It's a small bottle, but it's pure. It's only a 10% dilution. I just added 10% jojoba so that it would be skin safe, but it's just pure. It's 3 different roses, but it is red. And before I added the 10% jojoba, it's on Etsy. So Circe has the link for you. If you haven't, followed my Etsy shop, you should. There's not always new stuff there, but there's like some cute blankets there today and some rose perfume. But what I will tell you is, I took the jojoba, very little that I added, and I took the last of my red Mr. Lincoln roses and I infused them into the jojoba and then added it. Like Lee smelled it. It's red. It's really, really pure. Yeah. So this is designed for you to use a drop at a time. Okay. This is the most important thing for you to get. And we are still shipping from Lair, even though we're moving, because we can ship from my house, which is kind of a party bonus. So we are still shipping these, even though shipping for SG is down until tomorrow. We start shipping at Sage Goddess tomorrow, by the way, which is really crazy. And big kudos to my team for getting into our new space in less than 48 hours to start shipping. Like, you have no idea probably like what that means, but I'm so proud of them. They're actually setting up the shipping machines right now to turn everything on tomorrow. That is a miracle of God. So I just want to give a huge shout out to everybody at Team SG, because everybody's been so excited to get out of our old location, like just dancing out of the parking lot to get the fuck out of there. And then to get to our new space and already be set up is like, it's superhuman. So anyway, if you have orders at Sage Goddess, you're going to start seeing shipping notifications. And if you're like, how are they doing that? It's because they're not human. They are superhuman, and it's above and beyond. And we couldn't be any happier to be in our new free space. And it's beautiful and it's got great energy. And it was so funny because we moved in, from a apothecary perspective, I had everything packed, right? Because I was like, oh, we're gonna have to go in and just smudge and clear and all the things. We get into the new space, there's no stuck energy. I mean, we're clearing, right? You do the thing, but there's nowhere in the building where you walk around and you go, yeah, this feels kind of weird over here, or this corner feels kind of strange. It just doesn't. So it's really nice to move into a new space that doesn't need clearing. Shipping algorithm changing. You wanted to make a purchase, it's $130. We just have to look at it, right? Because shipping is really expensive. When you buy heavy things, and if you're outside the US, it actually could be $130. It's not that you need to pay that, but in most cases you're saving 75%. So some people are choosing to deal with shipping, but we don't like inflate shipping. You know what I mean? We literally, and in fact, in the Lair, I think we lose like $1,000 a month on shipping because we don't charge enough, it is what it is. But it's at SG, it's calculated based on the weight. So it's accurate, but it's just depending on how much you want to deal with that. So I get it. Yeah, it's not it sucks. You know what I mean? Even me, like I wanted to buy something from Australia this week and I didn't because the shipping was so high. So it's just, I think, where we are as a global community, but bear with us. Okay, so I'm going to dive in. Thank you, Arlene. Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Our boys are getting ready to graduate
Yay.
tomorrow. Yep.
Oh my God.
Yep. Yeah, Lee and I, this time tomorrow,
Yep.
we'll be sitting in
the
Senior
quad.
Park in the quad watching our boys complete their journey. What an incredible process it's been, especially for my son. It's, you know, it's against a lot of odds. So he's, I'm very proud of him. It'll be really fun tomorrow. So thank you for giving us a day off tomorrow to go be with our boys and celebrate. Okay. So I'm on page 2 of the worksheets. Page 2 of the worksheets for June. And like I said, I'm so excited about it. I do have some notes on the back. It's not that much though. So I don't think you need me to send this to you, but before I start, do you mind if I play the music? Do you mind? I would like to play the song for you. If you like the song, it is on my playlist called, on SoundCloud, called Return of the King. So if you're like, oh, I really, really like that, where do I find it? If you followed my playlists, and Circe can link to them for you. I spend a lot of time curating our playlists. I know not everybody has SoundCloud, but I like, for playlists, I like it better than Spotify. I'm on Spotify too, but my playlists are not. So some people have said, oh, I don't want to pay for a subscription to SoundCloud. Like, that's okay. But I don't know if you can follow my playlist without subscribing, but I don't get any money for it. I just like to make my playlist there. Okay, ready? Why is it not doing it? Okay, give me a minute because I'm going to reopen it. I'm going to go put it on my speaker, I think, too, so you can really hear it. I really do want to play it for you, so let me see if I can make this work. Let me try opening it a different way. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to try on my phone. Hold on. Bear with me. It's really important. I know Joseph's like, play the music, play the music, play the music. My little bird outside is very passionate about everything. I think the sound will be okay if I turn my phone on. I'm just kind of testing it. Can you hear him? Ooh, dark cacao with Damiana and honey truffles. I'm really here for that. I'm really here for that. And, you know, we made potions last month, and I do think that you could do something really beautiful with chocolate, with melted chocolate, something other than, can you guys still hear me? Yeah, okay, so I can turn on my phone, which is great news. Okay, hold on. Going back to SoundCloud. We want to just do different things with chocolate this month. Oh, something that's a little bit of a surprise. Okay, so library, playlist, Return of the King. Where's Swanya? It's a few minutes, okay? So I'm going to let you be with the music.
que curan con plumas del cielo, viento que canta, danza con el fuego, aves que curan con plumas del cielo, viento que canta, danza con el fuego, abre tus alas, calma las olas, abre tus alas, respira las olas, aves que curan con plumas del cielo, viento que canta, danza con el fuego, aves que curan con plumas del cielo, viento que canta, danza con el fuego, abre tus alas, calma las olas, abre tus alas, respira las olas. Escucho tu canto antiguo, sonidos que vuelan con el viento, puertas que abren el cielo, magia que viaja sin tiempo. Nay, 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 nay.
Transition now into the song that's dedicated to cacao. If you have your cacao oil, it's a good time to anoint that. Let me repeat what I said because it's really important. So if you have your cacao oil, I want you to anoint with it now, okay? And so I want you to make an infinity symbol at your wrist. This oil is from a source where we used to get cacao oil that is always pure. So this is 100% pure from the plant cacao. Definitely smells like chocolate, right? But it's also the pod. And one of the things I'm going to do with you at the end, toward the end of the month, when we actually go into creating with our offerings, is I'm going to show you the double cacao bean that I got from my journey with my shaman when I was there, because it's so precious. It's here at the house. So, and then just a little bit at your third eye to bless your thoughts with love, a little bit at your wrist to bless your actions with love, and then a little bit at your ankles to bless your path with love, to bless your steps with love. Okay. So just to take in the heart of the planet, the heart of the earth. That's cacao. That's Ish cacao, spirit. Back to the music. I'm going to be quiet now. I just want you to smell the cacao while we're in the music together.
medicina sagrada. Como vida, medicina sagrada. Medicina sagrada, medicina sagrada. Medicina sagrada, medicina sagrada. Como vida, medicina sagrada. Como vida, medicina sagrada. Medicina sagrada, medicina sagrada. Medicina sagrada, medicina sagrada. Iscacau, 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 cura iscacau. Iscacau, 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 cura iscacau. Uma vida, medicina sagrada. Uma vida, medicina sagrada. Medicina sagrada, medicina sagrada. Medicina sagrada, medicina sagrada. Uma vida, medicina sagrada. Uma vida, medicina sagrada. Medicina sagrada, medicina sagrada. Medicina sagrada, medicina sagrada. Iscacau, 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 cura iscacau. Iscacau, 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 cura iscacau.
There's another hour and 15 minutes left on that track, so if you like it, it's beautiful. But it's all cacao venison. Isn't that just so nice? Just to unplug and kind of listen and be present to that. I know. It'd be so nice to have a little ecstatic dance celebration in person. One of these days. Return of the King. It's track number 2. So yeah, you can, if you've saved my playlists, you probably already have that one. And it's right there. It's track number 2. The whole playlist is stunning. It's my second favorite of all the playlists I've ever done, Return of the King. So I hope you enjoy it. Return of the King is one. Do you like it? I'm glad you like it. Return of the King is one that I turn on before I go to bed. I don't like silence, so I turn that on before I go to bed and I just let it play all night. Yeah, I'm so glad. Oh, were you really? Oh, Christina, that just thrills my soul. She said she was shown some things while listening. Well, it's all about the sacred medicine of cacao and this desire to open your heart and open your wings. It's one of the things she's saying in the opening series is open your wings, right? And when I was in the jungle with him, he kept talking about wings, that we're all multidimensional beings. And it isn't the Hallmark card set of wings that we all think of, right? That we have. But we all can fly. We all can move between dimensions. And what they believe in the jungle and cacao medicine and copal medicine, I mean, we are deep in jungle medicine with this month's set of tools. We're talking about Ishel, right? Who is a really important Mayan goddess of the boom, but it's like every other goddess, right? Like, is that all she's about? She was about fertility. She was about abundance. Like if you prayed to Ishel, she would adjust the weather to bring more rain, to bring greater abundance. Like she's the goddess of all the things. So I'm really excited to like push into this month. One of the things I was going to tell you, and it'd be seriously, if you don't mind letting Hannah know, before we moved, I found all of these cacao sets from years ago. Like, you know, not forever ago, but like when we did cacao ceremony together. I don't know if you guys would like to have access to those, but I was like, oh my God, it's got everything you need to do cacao ceremony, and the ingredients are still really good. Do you remember? Okay, so seriously, can you let Hannah know that in our perfumery before we moved, I found all of these cacao sets, and I was like, oh, it's sad for all of these ceremonial sets to be sitting in the, you know, a box, and I don't even think they're on the website. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that. The Mayan Project is a beautiful place to get your cacao from. And I will tell you, there's so many good ethical sources for cacao now. It's exciting, right? Like years ago, we didn't have really good sources for really pure cacao. And one of the reasons, I mean, cacao has a really, not an indefinite shelf life, but if it's less than 5 years old, it's good. Truly, like you're not going to struggle because of the shelf life. So I would use it if you've got cacao and it's sitting there and you need to open your heart, and you know what I mean? Like it's honestly, from a shaman's perspective, it is the most important heart opening medicine you can work with. And it heals the cardiovascular system too, because cacao, really pure cacao, lowers your blood pressure. It truly does. It's very effective. I mean, a little square of very pure chocolate, if your blood pressure is high, I can't even tell you, right, how good that is for you. So let's dive in. I want to get to all my notes tonight. And as usual, like I've got so much to talk to you about. I won't be teaching Apothecary from home for long because I do like to have the second camera, and for our session where we do our Book of Wisdom, it just helps to have that second fancy camera. So as soon as we move and get set up, I'll teach the first 2 or 3 sessions from there. But then Sacred Circle is nice to do at home, although I'll have a stove now at SG. So I could do the cooking parts. You know, in the past, we haven't had a stove in years. So I've had to do everything from home that's cooking related. So session 4 is still kind of a nice session to do from home. But just to tell you, in terms of having multiple cameras and stuff, I will have that stuff. I just don't have it right now while we move. Okay, yeah, seriously, we'll be all over that. So we'll just have to figure out where they are. Because of course I found it and then I didn't say anything. But I was like, oh, because we're so like there's so much to move. I didn't want to hold the team back by saying, because if I say something, then the team runs at that. Right? I mean, God bless them, but so I have to be careful not to use that, you know, pull that card very often, because I didn't want to have them all now running to get these things and make sure they're listed. So I'm glad you like me teaching from home, though. Thank you for that, Melissa, because I do like teaching from home. You know, I mean, it's always going to be a mix probably. And I do, if I'm doing any kitchen stuff, I just feel like here I've had you in my kitchen so many times. And I do want to tell you, by the way, so we ate all of the jam and the syrup in different forms. I made like a pancake syrup. We made vinaigrette a couple times. I shared some with my friend, and I shared some with our neighbor. So everything was gone. And then I've just been craving cherry jam. So I made a new batch yesterday. And this time, instead of doing lemon juice, I did orange juice. And the cherries are so sweet right now where I live. And so I think it even turned out better. I didn't do the rose part this time, but I used all dark cherries. They're almost black. And so the jam is kind of like, I don't know, it's like this deep, it's a deep, deep, deep red purple. So gorgeous. And then the orange juice instead of the lemon juice didn't affect the texture, but it affected the sweetness. And I used fresh squeezed orange juice, obviously from an orange from my neighbor's tree. So super, super sweet. Aw, thanks you guys. Well, anyway, I just want to inspire you and tell you that like nothing was left from our batch of everything we made in class last week. And then I had to make more because I was so obsessed. So, well, Christy, one of the things I'm intending to do is next year is do more cooking online. But not just basic cooking, but cooking, energetic cooking. Because I think there's a real need for it. And I think but not just cooking, like other things you can make in the kitchen, making candy and making syrups and vinegars, which I'm obsessed with making vinegars, right? Like all the things that I do that you don't see because I don't share them all the time, right? Like, and I go into the garden, I get inspired, like, oh my God, I've got tomatoes. Oh my God, I've got jalapeno peppers. Oh my God. And then I figure something out to do with it. So like Apothecary, but, sort of, leaning toward consumption, right? Things that we can take into our body to heal. So we'll see. Yeah, that's actually, so Cooking with Intention is actually the name that I've pitched for my project to my editor. It's funny that you said that. It's the exact name. So we'll see. I pitched like 3 different names, but I think that one's good. My original idea was Sex for Your Stomach, which I still think is cute, but it's a little sassier than maybe what it's going to actually end up being. Black cherry and orange was the business. And then what I want to do before it's done is I want to make a dish with it, like a black cherry chicken with some shallots and garlic, and maybe like a reduction sauce at the end with a little balsamic and some heavy cream. Sounds kind of good. I'm making this up kind of as I go along, but that just sounds really, really good. Okay, so page 2 of your notes, the magic of the moon. Let's come back to, I wrote in my notes, this is coming back to our roots, right? Like Sage Goddess started with a moon. You know that, right? I was teaching university, but I was getting this calling to do something deeper. And my last university class was really deep. It was called Of Love and Leadership. And I'm still really good friends with quite a few of my students from that class, like 30 of them. So I've tracked them all their adult lives, and some of them were my age and older when we did the class together. So some of them are now in their late 60s and 70s, and it's really cool to see where everybody's gone. But the assignment for that class was that you had to, you could dance, you could sing, you could write a poem, you could write a paper. But the question was, how are you going to bring more of what you love into the world? That was the whole exam. And it was worth more than 75% of their grade. So their whole performance for the whole semester was based on their ability to answer that question, which puts a lot of pressure on you. It's not a paper. It doesn't have to be a paper, but it has to be amazing. And so, of course, they rose to the occasion, and it would take your breath away to watch these people in this doctoral program answer that question. And by the way, they all went on to do the thing, including me. So my co-professor and I said to the students, this isn't going to be easy. So we're going to do the assignment too with you. And we're going to do whatever we do, display it in front of you. So you're also going to evaluate us. And we did it. We did the assignment. And so I chose the night, because you could choose any one of the last 4 weeks of the semester to present, because it took 4 weeks for us to go through all of the presentations. So I chose a new moon. And I led them through an intention setting ceremony for my assignment. And I said, I'm going to do this with you. So I need all of you to set an intention for what you're going to do after this class, how you're going to bring more of what you love into the world. And the way I would answer that is by setting an intention. And tonight happens to be the new moon. What's a new moon? And I literally lectured on the new moon and then took them through the ceremony in class. And I did it myself. And I said, I am going, what I love is the moon, most of all. in the natural world, because it's really true. Like I've always been intoxicated. And what I love is leading people through ceremonies to celebrate the phases of the moon. And I'm going to bring more of what I love to the world by doing that online. Because I had a group that I met with at the new moon and the full moon every month the whole time I was in San Diego for 8 years, called the Muse. So I said, I already have a group like this in person in San Diego, and we meet twice a month, but I want to bring it virtual. And nobody's really done that yet, because it was new at the time, 14, 15 years ago. And so that was my exam. And I set that intention with a whole collective of people. And then Sage Goddess was born 3 months later, 4 months later. True story. No, actually a year. That was 2010. Maybe it was 2011. I think it was April, May of 2011. And Sage Goddess was born July of 2011. So look what happens when you set an intention, especially with a group, because the more energy you raise, that's why I do new moon ceremonies online. The more energy you raise in the presence of other people, the stickier your intention is, right? Because everybody's sort of like sending their energy to it as well. It tends to manifest more easily. So all of that, right? Okay. So on page 2, the moon holds a profound significance in magical practices. I'm not going to read your worksheets to you. They're great worksheets. You can read them. Okay. But I do want to go through some of the points that we raised to you. I love this line 4 of that first paragraph. Its cyclical journey through the night sky symbolizes the eternal dance of creation, destruction, renewal. It is a journey that the moon goes on every single month. And we are always invited to that journey. So at the new moon, we're always invited to release, to rest, to go within so that we can tap into our intuition. And then we go on that journey with her of waxing, right? Gathering energy, we gain weight during the waxing phases. You just naturally do. You retain water. So you may not gain fat, but you're more likely to hold on to the water in your body during the waxing phases. Then we get to the full moon. So we're full, she's full. You know, the ocean is responding to this movement, this gathering of energy. So everything is happening. And then immediately she starts to wane. She starts to empty. And so then she releases, you release water weight. She's releasing the tides. All of that energy gets dispersed. So we build all of that culmination, fruition, completion energy, and then we release until we get back to the new moon. So it is a journey that she goes on. It's a replicated journey is what we call it. So it's the same exact steps, but each time she's different. She's in a different sign. She has a different relationship to the other planets. She could be conjunct a planet, meaning she's next to a planet, right? She could be in opposition to a planet. And it also depends on what's happening with the rest of the astrology, because the moon is an alchemist. She co-creates, right? So she isn't just creating on her own. She's creating in this kind of alchemical equation, and the relationship of the other planets to her is dictating the influence that she has. Does that make sense? So anyway, I'm so glad you're here. I love talking about the moon because this is why I'm so fascinated. You know, each month, the new moon, you know, we may have an eclipse, right? So how the moon dances with the sun is intoxicating. She's doing her own dance with him. And so where is she? Is the sun occluded from her, hidden from her? Is the sun exposed to her? How are they in relationship to each other? Which reminds us of the duality within each of us too. So all of that is there. One of the primary reasons the moon's crucial is because it's always been associated with the divine feminine. So we go through all this here in Greek mythology. She's Selene, and that's why selenite, right, is named for her, because the ancient Greeks saw that light play and they thought the moon was trapped inside of it. So that's why selenite is called selenite, because it's thought to symbolize the goddess of the moon, Selene. Also in Roman lore, it's Selene as well. And so all of these deities remind us about intuition, mystery, emotional depth, and on and on. On page 3, so you can read the rest of that. Eshel in the moon. So what's the relationship? Why are we talking about Eshel? So each month in Apothecary, my goal was to connect a god or goddess or an archetype or a mythical figure of some kind with the energy of that month. And because we talked about the moon so much when I was in the Yucatan, right? Everything runs by moon phases. The kind of healing work you do runs by moon phases. But if you think about it, think about the Mayan calendar, right? So the role of the sun and the moon in these, especially the Central and South American countries, but in Mexico, right, is so critical. It is so absolutely critical because you have to think about where you are in the moon phases. The language lines up to it, the day of the week lines up to it, the time of the day lines up to it. And so every single thing is calculated, especially in the healing world. So she's fully aligned with the moon, deeply rooted in her identity as a goddess of fertility, of cycles. Ishal is often depicted with a serpent on her head, right? As the moon waxes and wanes, so does life, and so on and on. On page 4, the lunar phases influence menstrual cycles, and Ishal is thought to govern the menses. So she governed when you got your period, what your cycle looked like, your fertility levels at different points in your cycle. So anyway, all of that is there for you. Now, I want you to find out, and we posted, Circe posted in your Facebook group, the online calculator to find out what moon phase you were born under. Because you were born in a moon phase, right? And not just were you born at a new moon or were you born at a full moon. Very few of us, I wasn't born exactly at a new moon or a full moon, right? Because most of the phases are in between. That's 3 to 4 days a month. So if you were born at a new moon or a full moon, like, I'm actually jealous because I always thought that would be the coolest thing, is to be like square on one of those days. But you have fun with that. That's my favorite of the moon phase birth calculators. And then look up your kids, look up your partner. It's never been inaccurate for me. Of anybody I've ever looked up there, because I know the moon phases, so I know their information is accurate. Did you find out what it is? So it would be kind of fun, seriously, to do a poll in the group, because I'm just actually, as a teacher, I'm just curious. There's definitely a student profile and a teacher profile in the moon phases when you look at it. And there's definitely like more rebellious phases. There's more like introverted phases. There's more extroverted phases. So it'd be kind of fun just to see what's the primary and secondary moon phase for our collective in the Facebook group. So if we do that, give us a couple days, but if we do that, it'd be really fun for you to respond to that so we can track it. Okay, so new moon. I just want to run through the moon phases. Again, you can read your worksheets. I'm not trying to read you your worksheets, and we don't have a lot of time tonight, so I want to get through as much as I can. New moon for me, new projects, cleansing, purification. I'm going to tell you what spells in witchcraft are usually done at each moon phase, just because that's how I was trained. You may not be aligned to that work. It's totally okay. I don't consider myself a spell worker now, but it's all the process of gathering and directing energy, right? So in traditional witchcraft, the spells under the new moon for new beginnings, intention setting, the abundance checks, like writing a blank check to yourself in the form of whatever number you're trying to manifest of money, and then cleansing spells, cleansing and clearing energy. It's traditionally what's been done. Okay. And then on page 5, the waxing crescent, which is the first moon phase after the moon is new, right? The dark moon is the night before. A lot of us in this group love the dark moon. I'm always pretty quiet and at home at the dark moon. I know Colin does some good magic at the dark moon. So a lot of us just like that night because it's like the dark before the darkness. It's the void, right? So I just always see that as kind of like the stickiest, soupiest night to really do the magic part of it, which can be, I like sex magic at the dark moon. If you don't know what that is, we can talk about it. Some people get really weird about talking about sex, and we don't have to talk about it, but we are learning about the moon, so it seems like it's relevant. Okay, so waxing crescent, spells for growth and spells for motivation, like getting into something, getting excited about something. And then, this is the moon phase when the seed sprouts. Okay, we can talk about it. So literally, like, you put the seed in the ground, and what's the first thing you look for? The little green, like, yes, it took its root and now it's going to grow. So this is, you see the sprout. This is that moon phase. So you went from the intention setting phase, which you just did at the dark moon, new moon. Now you're at the sprout phase. You have proof that your idea is taking its form. So anything that for new, for growth, for discovering something new and beginning work on projects. First quarter, which is the waxing half moon, that is literally when the moon is half illuminated. So when you see it in the sky and it looks like a literal crescent, it's this one, that one, when it's literally just half of the moon. This is spell working around protection and decision making. Right, you're halfway there. So you've got enough energy to run a spell, like a strong one, like protection. And then if you have to make a decision, this is a good time to make it because you're going to be balanced in your judgment. That's why we like the waxing half moon, the first quarter, if we're going to make decisions for important outcomes. Okay, waxing gibbous, number 6. I have a lot of friends who are waxing gibbous. Anybody waxing gibbous? These people, God bless them, we need them. And most of my waxing gibbous are earth signs. They're hardworking. They're about the details. Like, this is where, like, you've carved the whole statue, and now you're going in and you're like, with fine sandpaper, you're going in and like refining it. Like, you're good, but you could be better. And we need that. It's just a little, they're kind of picky people, but they are the ones who come, they're finishers, right? So like, you've done all the hard work. Now they're going to come in and make sure it looks good. So spells around manifestation, but also confidence and completion. Like, I want to finish this project. I want it to be perfect, right? And then the full moon on page 7, culmination. Anybody born at a full moon? Clarity, right? Because again, the moon has all of her light. So she's seeing clearly. You can see, like, when I go outside on a full moon in my garden, I can see all my plants, right? Okay. Spells for gratitude, spells for expansion, and spells for clarity are things that are generally, again, this goes back to sort of traditional Wiccan practices. And then number 8, this is me. I'm a waning gibbous. Nice to meet you. I'm Athena. I was born under a waning gibbous moon in 1973. It's a pleasure to meet you. This is the, they call this the sage. They call this the teacher, right? Yeah, are you waning gibbous too? This is gratitude, introspection, and the sharing of knowledge. So we are the teachers. Hi. Who knew? Of course you do. Waning gibbous. WG. Although waxing gibbous is also WG, so that doesn't really help. But for spells here, releasing and reflection and gratitude. Giving thanks, and going introspective, right? Where am I? How am I feeling? What do I need? All those things. And then how do I share what I know with people? What do I need to share? How do I share it? What's interesting to people? What do I need to change about how I'm sharing it? Last quarter, the waning half moon. This is about releasing forgiveness and letting go. So spells around forgiveness, releasing past friendships and partners from the burdens of the wounds that those relationships created. This is the perfect moon phase to do that work. And also banishing work. I don't do banishing. I don't care if you do it, but I just, for me, it's not what I like to do for just reasons that are complicated. But if you do banishing work, this is the perfect banishing phase too. And then waning crescent, which is the final phase before the new moon. And it's one of my favorites of the whole cycle. I wasn't born there, but I really love it because I can feel it. The new moon is my favorite. And so I can feel when the moon finally goes and releases the light. I can feel it. And it's like, okay, everything from this cycle, I can let it go now too. So this is just the few days before you have your new moon. But for me, it's the sweetest of the times. I sleep better at a waning crescent. I've never been with a partner who was waning crescent, but I always thought that would be cool. Like, they would probably feel like people who, don't hold on. Like, they are like natural cleansers of energy. Anybody born under this phase? Anybody waning crescent? I'm just curious, like, do you feel like that to people? I bet you do. Like, you just, like, you're like a natural detoxifier. Yeah, Christy, have you gotten that feedback before? And Anne Marie is too. Like, do you do that for people? I bet you do. We could talk about it. Like, what do you do for people? For me, I know I'm a teacher, so that whole profile for my phase makes absolute sense. But I'm curious how the rest of you under these other phases feel it. Your fiance is? Ooh, you're so lucky. What's that like? I ended up with a lot of waxing gibbous. I don't know why. I'm like a waxing gibbous attractor. I mean, they all have their benefits, right? Okay, so herbs and offerings on page 10. I want to talk about Kalea. And on your violet, it's called Dream Herb. Okay. I call it Kalea because Sakatakichi is more complicated, right? It's Nahuatl. I don't speak Nahuatl. I speak Spanish. Nahuatl is the origin story of Spanish, right? So it's the pre Spanish language form. It means bitter grass in Nahuatl. It's also referred to as the leaf of God. Now, I'm going to tell you, people smoke this. I mean, I'm sure you know these things, right? They make tinctures out of it. You can look up, Kalea, different, companies that sell it, and they make the tinctures and they ship the tinctures to you and stuff. In my experience, valerian's more powerful. I don't know. I would be curious to see what you guys think, because some of you may have tried both and said, oh, she's crazy. Like, there's no way valerian's as powerful as that. But for me, valerian is. And I don't know if it's just my system and how I interact with it, but valerian, if I can't sleep, that is nature's Ambien. What Kalea does for me, and this is kind of consistent with what the, sort of natural resources tell us, what Kalea does for me is it helps me with dreaming. Although I don't need help with dreaming, so maybe that's the issue. I dream all the time. My dreams are a mix of entertainment and prophecy. So when I work with Kalea, the difference is when I wake up in the morning, I can remember really well. Like, oh yeah, that was that dream last night. And so sometimes I can't. Have you guys had experience with both of them? Oh, interesting. So Christiana said that valerian does that for her too, until her body adapts to it. So what happens when your body adapts to it? Interesting, because I haven't used it enough for my body to adapt. I'm a good sleeper, so I've never really been, deprived of sleep. Because if you lay me down and I'm relatively relaxed and I know how to self-soothe, I'm out, right? So maybe if you can't remember your dreams, Kalea would be really good for you to work with. And your dream state changes, Angela. That's interesting. So, okay. So, and also if you've wanted to do lucid dreaming, and a lot of you ask me about this all the time, like, I really want to have these lucid dreams. I want to travel. I want to be out of my body. because I talk about, I'm often climbing things that are not physically climbable, or I'm flying in my dreams. Like, I can feel my ability to move without resistance. And a lot of you are like, I want to have that experience of feeling like I'm either very small and I can just jump around, which is how it feels, like very free, or I can literally feel myself flying. So Kalea would probably help with that. Probably. I had a friend recently send me, I haven't tried it yet because I don't try any new plant medicines until I don't have to like work or do anything adult-ish for a day. And I don't get days like that right now. But a friend sent me a Bobinsana tincture, which she said I need to try. And that's a plant teacher I've not worked with before. I don't know if you have experience with Bobinsana. So I would love to know if you have, because she was like, oh, Athena, like when you get a day. She said it's very gentle, but because I'm so sensitive, I always like to give myself a buffer of like 24 hours on either side in case I have a weird reaction. So if you've tried Bobinsana, I'm all ears, and we can talk about Bobinsana. It's not one of our agenda herbs or plants for the year, but I'm always open to talking about more things. So it's used to increase your connection to the spirit world and the dream world. helps you to interpret dream symbols and messages. And then the crystals are amethyst, amberite, and brookite. Although I would also include sodalite. I would. In terms of Kalea. Kalea for me does represent, or sodalite represents the ability to lucid dream, but to feel still grounded in that process and to be able to recall the power and the magic and the messages of your dreams. So I would add sodalite to the list of stones on this page. And so the questions on page 11 are just to kind of, if you want to dialogue with the plant, if this is one that you really, really love, or you want to explore it more deeply, these are the good questions for you to ask. So how do you approach your own dream life and dream recall? And then which of your psychic gifts do you want to enhance or improve? So, and then on page 12, we talked about copal. We burned quite a bit. You're welcome to burn some more if you want. I think my charcoal is out. I might be able to relight it. Let's see. And so for me, one of the most interesting things about copal, I'm just trying to light my charcoal here. I'll show you what I'm doing. Because I don't think it was fully lit before. It might be kind of, sometimes it gets old and it gets kind of limp. So let's see. I know copal is just one of my favorites. So I was really excited to be in the jungle and see so much copal. I really was. It felt like, okay, I can breathe, I can rest, and to see how frequently it was burned there. So most of in the jungle, every so often when you move through the jungle, there are, this isn't the word they would use, but like copal stations. There are just burners lit and charcoal lit, and they're tended through the day. So the charcoal is replaced. The charcoal is much longer burning than what I'm using. I don't exactly know where it's from. And so I would be walking with him, and then we would get to the next clearing, and I would see a big ceremonial. I mean, sometimes they were as big around as my arms, burner, and then the charcoal there, and then a big bowl of the copal oro, which means golden copal. And you could just choose a piece and place it. Although, again, we sucked it and spit it. But it was, can you imagine? I mean, you're out in the middle of nowhere, really. And yet here are people who are tending, healers who are tending these flames. And for me, I remember standing there and watching one of them and thinking, this is what I'm going to carry home. When I'm having a hard day back in LA on a random Wednesday, June 4th or whatever, right? I'm going to close my eyes and know that somewhere in the middle of the jungle here, someone is tending a nonstop fire, right? Isn't that incredible? Oh, interesting. Thank you for that, Myra. Myra tried Bobinsana. The energy water is mermaid and it's for creativity. But can I work? That's always my question. I can still work, right? That's my North Node in Capricorn. I don't have to take a day off, do I? Anyway, so if you're having a hard day, I want you to imagine that in the middle of the Yucatan, someone's tending a copal fire. It's kind of a cool image, isn't it? Okay, so the bummer part of the conversation, thank you, Circe, by the way. The bummer part of the conversation, and then we'll get back to the healing properties of it, but you can read your worksheets. I like to take it off the page and tell you things that aren't in your worksheets. The bummer part. So I said to him, God, it just seems like there's copal everywhere, right? Like there's a wealth of it here. And he's like, well, it's so important to our Mayan culture and our roots. And it's such a, it's such a widely appreciated offering, right? Back to nature. And nature is what sustains us here in the jungle. And so he said, but there's actually less than there used to be. And he's like, we have a lot less than we used to. And I said, really? And I said, is it that the trees aren't growing? Is it that, and I was talking about white sage, right? And I said, in Southern California, white sage is protected because there's just less of it. It's been so over harvested because a big white sage plant, and I've taught you this, I'm very careful because I have my own growing on my property. White sage, if you take more than a third of the plant, any plant, when you're harvesting it, you've just killed the plant, and it doesn't grow back. So what happened when people were starting to get into white sage bundles and all that stuff after sage got us started and everybody started, selling them, people would just go into parks here in Southern California and just, take as much as they wanted. They didn't know about the plant or that you can kill it that way or about sacred exchange and all that stuff. So they just like hacked and hacked and hacked. And so you would have whole parks. I mean, and when I say park, it probably means different things to you and me, but like hundreds of acres, right, of just gone, right? And there was a place I used to go and hike, and I never picked white sage there because it just looks so beautiful, and I'm just so careful. And because for sage goddess, the white sage came from an organic farm, so it was grown organically on open land near all these petroglyphs, but on the Mexican border, but wasn't protected. So I was always really weird about picking it just out in public. It just seems so disrespectful. But anyway, it's because it's always planted intentionally, right? I mean, white sage is grown very intentionally. So after all of that happened, they had to protect it. So I was asking him, is that what happened to copal? Is it just being over harvested? Because, in my world, now it's a commodity and people sell it and, all those things, same thing that happened with white sage. And he goes, no, Athena. And I said, really? What's going on then? If it's not being over harvested and it's not being, you've got enough of the trees growing. And he's like, Athena, we don't have the next generation, the entire next generation of medicine people, of copal farmers, right? Of people who, and not just farmers, but people who gather copal, gather the resin, specifically for ceremonial purposes. He's like, that whole generation is basically wiped out. Like basically the Gen X, right? The next coming up of like 15 to 30-year-olds does not want any part of it. And I said, are you kidding me? And he's like, no, it is just universal. And he said, the problem is, I know, he said, the problem is, because I was like, really? Because this is often passed down like generation to generation. And he was like, we can't be judgmental. Like that generation, he's like, the trees are hard to get to. It's hard to gather the copal. It's sticky. It's dirty, right? Like it's hard to get off your hands. Think about it, right? I mean, if you touch your resin and stuff and, because I touched it all day when I was in the jungle, I would go back at the end of the night and wash my hands, and I had to use rubbing alcohol, right, to get the stickiness off my hands. So if that was my full-time job, gathering the resin, I might, go, oh, I don't want to do this. And so he's like, they want to be like, instead of wanting to gather it, they want to go show it online and sell it, but they don't want to do the work of gathering it. And he said, it will always have to be hand harvested, the copal. It's just really not something that can be done with massive machinery. So he said it's going to become this kind of like niche. Do we have the people who can do it, who want to do it, whose heart is in it, because it's not easy to do. So I thought that was really interesting. And he said, because I told him I was having a hard time getting copal incense sticks from Mexico. I still have a hard time getting them. And he's like, yeah, I mean, it's literally, that's what it is, because those incense sticks are all hand dipped. Right. So it's a stick and then into the melted copal and dry, and then into the melted copal and dry. And again, it's messy. It's sticky. It's dirty. It's all over your hands. It's all over your feet. It's your clothes smell like it. It's all the things. So we've got a generation missing who doesn't want to do that. Yeah, but here's the problem, Colin. It's also cutting down on their ability to sustain themselves with this particular export. Right? Like there are people whose livelihood is the export of copal. It's not like Tanzanite where it supports the whole Tanzanian country, right? And their budget, but so yeah, I mean, you do want to think that there's going to be less exploit, like with Palo Santo. And the thing with Palo Santo is it's supposed to be cut from fallen trees. We aren't supposed to be taking these baby trees and producing Palo Santo sticks with it. Like that was never how it was supposed to be. It was always cut from fallen. I've shown you my shelves here in the crystal room are made from Palo Santo, and it's like it is an ancient tree. It's got to be at least 1,500, 2,000 years old to create like wood pieces that are as wide as my shelves. But I mean, they're not supposed to be taking the baby stuff, but they do, I mean, in places where they're focused on the revenue from it. So on page 12, you can look at all the healing properties, right? Purification of the air, relief from respiratory discomfort. If you ever have a super scratchy throat from coughing, put your mouth over the smoke of copal. It literally will, even if you have a really bad sore throat, it helps. It just helps with the irritation. I've had those times where I've coughed so much when I was sick that like it just hurt to swallow. Like your whole throat is really sensitive. So Palo Santo or copal is one of the things I work with, the smoke of it. Facilitates communication with higher realms, spiritual entities, right? The smoke is said to carry your thoughts and prayers to heaven, which my shaman also said, right? Like always watch the smoke. So you put your piece down and then you watch the smoke and you send your prayers up with the smoke is the ceremony that you do. So page 13, again, questions you can journal about or just ask yourself if copal feels like it's the medicine for you. Okay, and then valerian root, like I said, number 14 or page 14, for me is more powerful than Kalea if I'm trying to sleep. If I'm trying to dream, Kalea is really good. But there's a lot of things that are really good. Oh, a really good indica, cannabis can do that for you. I think at this point, when is it going to be legal in every state? I mean, it just gets a little insane that it's not legal in every state. So I don't know what the rules are, but where you are, if you have it, but that can help you too. So valerian root realigns you to your natural circadian rhythms. That's why it helps with insomnia, because you're supposed to sleep when it's dark and be awake when it's light. Yeah, I mean, seriously. Although I was talking to my friend last night who I went to high school with, and we were talking about how he was always in trouble for weed. And he was like, you know how much easier my life would have been if it was legal? And I was like, yeah, I do actually. Like they tortured him over it all the time in high school. So valerian root contains compounds that interact with the neurotransmitters in your brain. And that's how it does what it does. So it isn't just, valerian in, whatever tradition you look at, it's witchy and it'll help you sleep, or it's it's going to, intoxicate you, or it's going to, no, it's working on your neurotransmitters. and it creates an appropriate balance of the messages to your brain that helps regulate both sleep and your mood. So you tend to sleep better and you tend to be a little happier when you wake up with valerian. So it really is scientific. And then it is used to relieve muscle tension, headaches, gastrointestinal discomfort related to stress. It's really good for gas, So it's considered calming and protective in your magical practices. So sodalite, lepidolite, and lithium quartz, which I think are probably the best stones for that. Particularly the lithium quartz. Valerian is the herbal equivalent of lithium quartz. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, everybody needs different things at different times. I will say the biggest sadness in my life, truly, is the fact that plants that can really heal us are not accessible. It's a great sadness. Truly, truly. I lost my aunt, my mom's sister, to cirrhosis of the liver, right? Because she was so stressed and anxious as she drank until she died. I think if she'd had options, she probably would have considered them. She didn't know what her options were, but I think she would have found a way to, and she was, my aunt, my mom's sister, was one of the most vibrant people in our family, but she only lived to 39. So if she had been my age, I can't imagine how fun she would have been. She was super fun, super vibrant, right? But it breaks my heart because there are so many alternatives to alcohol. And yet, and alcohol is the most dangerous of all of the options. And it's the one that is the most accessible. And it's, I'm sure I don't have to tell you. So, but as a healer, like if you gave me one wish, like here is your genie bottle as a healer, that you can only have one wish, it would actually be that all people, it wouldn't be for myself, it would be that all people can have access to plant medicine freely. Like you pay for it, but what it's fairly worth, which is not very much. But I don't, that won't be in our lifetime. Maybe in our grandkids' lifetimes, there'll be some kind of awareness like that. So balsam copaiba is derived from the copaiba tree, and it's related. All of these are related. So these are all members of the same tree family, and that's what's cool about magic plants. So when you see the relationship between your copaiba and your copal, they come from the same tree family. So all of the medicines that come from that tree family are going to be antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, right? All of the things analgesic, anti-bacterial, and microbial. So, but this one in particular, balsam copaiba, one of the reasons it's so interesting, if you look at line 4, it's a compound known to reduce inflammation and pain. And so when I tell you, and you have your little bottle of balsam copaiba, first of all, I love the smell of it. It has a very, to me, it's a little medicinal, but it still has kind of an ambery, buttery texture or scent to it. But my friend who's a nurse was like, don't even get up in my face with that, Athena, because this is a Band-Aid. This is liquid Band-Aid. You can put it on a cut and it starts to close the wound. So, and she's like, EMTs know that copaiba does that. And so a lot of times they'll have it, if they're, even just when they're out and about, they'll have it. And so it is, Christy. So they can't smell it because all they smell is like being on the job and somebody's hurt. So they've developed a scent association with it. But literally, if you keep this in your little magic bag when you're traveling, if you get a cut or a scrape and you don't have anything else, it is the original liquid Band-Aid. It's really, really true. So wound healing. But then if you think about whatever something does physically, it does the same thing energetically. So think wound healing on a bigger level. Like, what are your emotional wounds? What are your spiritual wounds? So when you work with copaiba and you're working with the spirit of the plant, and that's what I really want to focus on for this entire month. I'm working on right now. I don't have it for you yet. I didn't want to rush it. I'm planning to have it for you next week when we do our journey. I'm working on, I haven't done a new invocation or a new prayer or blessing in how long? Like just a general one that feels really important. I'm working on one to the spirit of the plant. And I'm going to leave it generic so that you can do it. Like, let's say you're burning Palo Santo, or let's say you're burning sage. It's going to be a generic blessing and invocation to the spirit of the plant that you're working with, to give it permission to access, to appreciate its beauty and its medicine, but then to give it permission to move and work in the ways that it needs to for all who are present. It just feels like the right time to do it. So that's a very inspired thing. I will give it to you first. So you'll have the first rendition of it before I share it with our community. But I think it'll be really sweet. It resonates with me right now. Like even when I was cooking the last couple of days, I was really mindful, like the spirit of that fruit. Because your fruit has all kinds of magical properties to it, right? So like the anti-inflammatory properties of the spirit of that plant, and just all the things it's going to do for my body when it's inside, like I give it permission to clear, to cleanse, to balance, right? To all the things. So yeah, I think the timing is really good and you guys are the right ones. So it also, now, I mean, in addition to all the physical stuff it does, it enhances meditation, spiritual awareness, right? But you can see on the 4th line from the bottom on page 16, aimed at healing emotional wounds. So that's what I was saying. It's a wound healer on every level, the physical, spiritual, physical, or mental and emotional. Helps you to put your intentions, helps align them with the greater flow of the universe. And then you have your crystals for balsam copaiba. So there's physical cleansing, right, with your copal, and then there's the spiritual cleansing with the balsam, but it's also a physical cleanser too. Cacao, which is my favorite, although the balsam copaiba and the copal mix really beautifully together. Did you try that? They smell really nice together. The cacao sweetens it up a little bit, so it's not so medicinal and sharp. So you might try combining those two. See what you think. So cacao comes from the cacao tree. It's got lots of bioactive compounds. On line 3, it talks about the flavonoids. The flavonoids are what's really powerful about cacao. Okay, so like let's talk medicine, physical medicine, traditional medicine, lowers the blood pressure, improves blood flow to the brain. So it assists with memory and information recall. And it also prevents blood clots. So if you're having problems with blood clots, cacao is really important for you. Mood enhancing, right? Because it's got compounds like theobromine, which we all know enhances mood. These substances boost energy levels, improve cognitive function, but that's also because of the increase of blood flow to the brain. The presence of tryptophan supports serotonin production. So again, that's your mellow it out neurotransmitter. It's got iron, copper, calcium, blah, 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 right? All the things. The mood boosting properties of chocolate are well researched. And I do want to say, we don't eat the right kind of chocolate. I'm not talking about a Hershey bar. You probably won't enjoy the flavor of the cacao that's actually going to help you. We put little squares of it in that kit. So if I can get the kits ready for you guys and be able to offer them, that would be cool. But we sent you like the really traditional, really strong cacao. So it's, for me, I can have a little bit. I don't want more than like a square of it because it's overpowering, but, and, you know, so it's enough. But I will tell you, if you eat just a little bit of that, the only time you don't want to is if blood flow to the brain is a problem. There aren't a lot of cases where that is, but for some people, you know, if they have migraines, a history of migraines, you know, you may not want to increase the blood flow to the brain. So sometimes there are people who do well by not having increased cacao. So there's questions for you on page 19 if you want to dialogue, but this is what the cacao beans look like. They're so beautiful. And again, it was cool to be down there in Mexico where they grow cacao. So, you know, getting fresh beans was really sweet. And then the last of the, where is my, the offering was Lunaria, which I don't think I got my offering from our team. No, I did not. But if you have your offering, that is, it's kind of a lunar shaped little seed pod. So we thought that was cool as an offering because it actually looks like the moon, and it would be a cool addition if you're doing your offering bowl to add your lunaria to it. Marcia said she adds honey to her cacao, which is really smart. It's really smart. And honey actually, so I'm one of those weird people, too much cacao, and it's not actually that much. So I have to, when I go to ceremony, even though they usually give you a little tiny cup, I usually will take one sip, because if I drink too much cacao, I get really sick to my stomach. It's too overpowering to my system. I can eat chocolate and candy and stuff, but like the really pure cacao. So honey, because of its properties, probably for me would be a good way to go, because it, you know, honey helps to prevent a lot of digestive issues. It literally just sort of greases the wheels, as it were. So I think I should think about that if I try it in the future. So that is, at a glance, that is an overview of all of the tools that we're working with, the deity that we're working with, and she's so beautiful, and the energies that we're working with in June, Apothecary. Picking up again from last year, and the first month went by so fast. What I would like to ask is if you have feedback for what you would like to do for session 4. And like I said, I'm planning chocolate. I think we're going to do 2 things, because what Hannah and I realized last class was if we just did the balm, it would have not been enough. So having the balm and the jam used the time perfectly, we thought. Hopefully you agree. So I'm thinking like, what's the second we could do chocolate and like truffles and something else? So if there's something that sounds good to you. Hannah was talking about making rosary beads out of roses, if you remember, which is totally aligned to love and could be something really cool. So I think chocolate's definitely going to have to happen. And it's pretty easy. What I will tell you is it's going to have to be a 2-part process. Okay. So I'm going to have to finish the interior part of the truffle and just do the tempering of the coating and the pouring and the topping with the little magics and stuff with you live. It's like making bread, right? My bread is a 2-part process. So the night before, I'm kneading the dough and letting it rise, and the next day I'm baking it off. And that's the part that we shared with you. I will teach you how to do that, and I'll post about it in the group like maybe a week before. So that way, if you want to do the whole process, then you can make your center of your truffles before we get together and let them harden the day before. And then you can top them and dress them with me. Does that sound good? Yeah, so you'll get the recipes in your class notes, kind of like we did with the jam last month. So chocolate honey lip balm, Jennifer Hall Bloom. Sounds really good, doesn't it? All the things cacao, right? I want a candle that I can burn in my bedroom that smells like that oil. I don't want it to smell like a Farkin Hershey bar. That's not sexy to me at all. I want it to smell like cacao. But the problem with cacao oil is how expensive it is. So, and you actually have to have a little fragrance oil in candles, really, otherwise you don't get scent throw. So what I have to do is use a little bit of natural cacao, find a synthetic cacao that is good, but doesn't smell like a Hershey bar. It's going to take a minute. We did do an SG perfume at one point with cacao. Oh, tonka might be nice. Vetiver could be interesting. Tonka would be good. Sandalwood. I think you're picking up what I'm putting down. I think it was Frida. Okay, so I think that's everything. So the rose perfume, hope you enjoyed tonight. The rose perfume is over on Etsy. Again, this is the one I promised you. It is the purest, best rose oil I've ever brought you. It's 3 different roses plus infusions of my roses from here at the house. So it's a very unique blend. It is red. It's like a red, like a dark red, like a red brown. It's incredible. Please use that 1 drop at a time or dilute it. That is not, I mean, it is so pure that you could dilute it and it would extend how much you have. But just if you're going to anoint with it, just 1 drop. Okay. It will last you if you do it that way. That's all I've got for tonight. It was really good to be with you. Really, really happy that we were together. We did have some copal incense sticks once upon a time when I first came back to SG, and we have the 75% sale right now. Magic 75 is the code. So you might just go to sg.com and search copal or cacao. I'm just telling you, because if you can find any of those things at 75% off while we have the sale, I think that's just you being smart. Truly. Yeah, we still have the 75% off. I haven't stopped it yet. I will. It is going to end. But while we've been moving, I just kind of let it roll for a little bit. So you're very welcome. So glad you were here. Have a great rest of your evening, everybody. And what else was I going to tell you? Moon phase calendar. So if you want to look up the phase that you were born under, again, each phase has its own archetypal energy. And the website that I pointed you to through Circe actually gives the archetype. Did you guys get your archetype? So if you want to look up what type you are based on your moon phase, and then, like I said, look up your partners and look up your kids. It's just kind of fun to see where you are. And a lot of times partners are opposite the wheel from each other, which that's happened to me a lot. So I'm the waning, they'll be the waxing of the same phase. I have a lot of waxing gibbous. And again, it's good medicine for me. It's your opposite type, right? Just like the full moon and the new moon are opposite. When you get to the middle of the wheel, those oppositions are really powerful. They teach you a lot about the pieces that you're missing. And a lot of times we pick up those pieces that we're missing through our partners in our relationship. So Suno Studio said, I had cacao in Africa. I couldn't bring it home with me. Can you just tell me how it was different? Like taste wise, was it richer? Was it, I would just love to know. Kapala sold out. Good to know. Yeah, the pulse candle. Remember the pulse candle? I was hoping there were going to be some of those left in the warehouse when I came back, and there were not. There's a lot of things I was like, maybe this will be there, maybe that will be there, and pulse was not there. That was an amazing candle. That was during Hanale's time, though, so maybe we could nudge her just a little bit and see what kind of cacao candle. Maybe bubble that up, seriously, to Hana, that we've been talking about cacao candles. I just wouldn't want to take it to like a rose direction. People do that and it's pretty, but it's like, now I smell roses, right? I don't want to smell the roses as much as the cacao. And then remind me, we'll talk about sex magic. It's related to all of our conversations about the moon. So we'll see you soon. Have a great rest of your night, everybody.